countdown is on.
Tush push again. Brosmer. They push him in. Wait, USC says no.
After review, it is a touchdown.
Minnesota takes the lead. Garbers. It's batted and intercepted. Cody Lindenberg with the pick. A big stand for Minnesota's defense.
Oh, and it's blocked. Second block of the day. Minnesota going the other way with it. This might be a touchdown for Ethan Robinson. Robinson, 2 points the other way.
It's time for 25 teams in 25 grums.
Well, that's a first. I don't think we've ever had the announcement of a replay review reversal as part of the highlights of the featured team, but it's first time for everything. That was a big play last year in one of the better games of the year, and the guy who was there to call it all for the Minnesota Gopher Network, Mike Grimm, the voice of the Gophers, joins us as we preview the Minnesota Golden Gophers in 25 teams and 25 grums. Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, doing good. We're hitting that time of year now where it's every day is something new as we head to the season. So practice, Gophers have practice open for the media tomorrow, and so we'll get to go watch them.
What are the general expectations this year? This is already, doesn't seem like it, but it's already year 9 for PJ Fleck.
It's pretty interesting. I think there's a couple of things. I think everybody's expectation in the Big Ten now, I think, has to be different than it used to be. I think we found out even last year to a certain degree, it's a different league now. You got 9 league games, which that hasn't changed. You've added 4 teams from the West Coast, which adds travel, and those 4 teams are pretty good, all of them. You look at Oregon, a playoff team last year, Washington, a playoff team the year before. We'll see what happens there. UCLA seems to be a team that, when you fly out west, I don't care if the other team is good or not. That is a factor. And again, they have it the other way coming out east. They in fact more than once, right? I mean, the closest game for all those teams of the old Big Ten are you guys, right, in Nebraska, and that's a long flight every road trip they've got. But that all said, there's no divisions. Like finishing 7th in an 18-team Big Ten isn't too bad, and pretty soon when they make 16 teams into the playoffs, whenever that happens, you might finish 5th and make the playoffs, and that's going to be a good year. So I think 8 wins. If you're Minnesota, 8 wins should be, I'd swoop in and take that right now. First of all, you've got road games at Oregon and Ohio State, so you're probably 0-2, before you – I mean, that doesn't start the season, but you're not going to probably win those games. So to get to 8, you'd have to be 8-2 in the rest of them. I mean, that'd be a pretty good season. When you got Nebraska coming here, you're at Iowa, Wisconsin comes to Minnesota. So I just think expectations generally have to change. Like people who think every Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, all these teams, they're not all going to win 10. Every year. So that's a long answer to the question. And it really didn't answer the question. What is it this year? I think if you're Minnesota, you take 8 wins right now if you could. I think the over-under is like 6.5 maybe. So, and the weird thing is we're gotten to the point where, and PJ mentioned this in the Big Ten Media Day, 8 wins has become kind of ho-hum. I mean, he's won 8 now a few times in a row, and I think that's a good sign that your fans might be bored at 8-5. He had the breakout year in 2019. They're probably due for another one of those that would really help energize everybody, and I don't know if that'll happen this year or next. But it'd be nice to punch through. I think that's when you're in Minnesota, you got to hope that, you win 8 most years or 7, whatever. And then once every now and then you get 10, 11, something like that, contend for a playoff spot. And I don't think that's that unrealistic now in the landscape of college football.
Well, Mike, if they're going to do so, I want to start on offense, and I want to start not with the quarterback, but with Darius Taylor, because I had a chance to go to a couple games last year, and he was like one of the players on the field that absolutely popped for me. He finished just shy of 1,000 yards. He had over 100 yards rushing in each of his final 2 games, including the bowl game. He was also really good out of the backfield at catching passes, had over 300 yards. What would a good to great, if you will, 2025 season look like for the junior running back?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think he'd want to get 1,000 yards rushing. I think they'll probably count on him a little more in the ground game than they did last year. As you mentioned, he had 54 catches out of the backfield. I think that was tops in the Big Ten. I think him and Woody Marks from USC were, really in the league, the two best guys out of the backfield to catch passes. Now it's a different quarterback now. Trying to get him the ball. So the question is, philosophically, the offense probably won't change much, but how will the quarterback view the check down to the running back? And that was a very friendly option for Max Brosner last year because he recognized how good Darius Taylor was out of the backfield. But I think he's going to want to get 1,000 yards and more. The NFL scouts have really been the whatever you want to call it, the analytics, the numbers, all of that. They really like this kid, Darius Taylor. And he has a chance. It's amazing to me. He's already going to be a junior because his freshman year, he missed about half the season, but when he played, he was amazing. Last year, he played all but one game. He played in a couple of others nicked up, but still had a great year. And now, it's go time for him these next 2 years. He should be 1,000+ yard rusher, be a factor out of the backfield, score double-digit touchdowns, and probably be the focal point of this offense.
Talking with the voice of the Gophers, Mike Grimm. Like a lot of other teams we've already previewed and a lot of other schools in the Big Ten, there's a young quarterback that is expected to be the future, and Drake Lindsey happens to be that person for Minnesota. Tell us what we should expect from him, and is it a foregone conclusion he will start the year?
Yeah, he'll be the starter. That's 100% certainty, barring knock on wood, some sort of an injury between now and the opener. So hopefully he gets through that. I think that's the biggest question mark, and I think it's also maybe amongst any team in the league the biggest one-to-one correlation to success is if he has a really good year, this team can be really good, and if he struggles like some redshirt freshmen can, then maybe it's not going to come that easy, and it could go sideways a little bit. That is, to me, the biggest question mark on the team, and I don't say that because of the skill. I think anyone who would come and watch him at practice and see his arm and see how he shapes the ball and see how he anticipates a throw, and he had a 70-yard long strike to Coy Parrish, of all people, who's going to play some offense. They had an open practice on Saturday, and he struck him on a deep ball right on target, right on time. So I think, though, and he can move. He's not going to be mistaken for Lamar Jackson, but he is probably a little niftier than Brosmer, even though he's bigger and taller, and he can hopefully step up in the pocket and avoid a sack and extend the play. None of those things really are in question. So when I say it's the biggest question mark, to me, the biggest thing is he's taken, 10 snaps as a college football player. And when all of a sudden, your first road game, your first conference road game, I believe, is Ohio State. And then you go to Kinnick Stadium. You've also got a trip to Cal in the non-conference there. And I know that's not a hotbed of college football, but to travel out west on your first start as a young quarterback and have it be on the road on all those miles away. So how does it respond? Big Ten is pretty well known for defense, so he's going to be going up against good defenses most days. So if he handles this situation, John, and is pretty good, then I think this team has a chance to be pretty good. And I think it's pretty close because there's pieces, the rest of this thing around him that if he's pretty good, the team can be pretty good.
Hey, speaking of those pieces, Mike, I was reading Bill Connolly this morning, and he wrote about the offense. He said, though this will still be a Minnesota offense for better or worse, it feels like this version might have a bit higher ceiling and lower floor than usual. I wonder if you think that that's an apt description of that side of the ball.
I think I would still wait to see. Almost everything you read, Drake Lindsey, and look, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. There are also some that have, some question marks. So there's talented players, but almost every ranking that you see would have Drake Lindsey ranked near the bottom of the quarterback list in the Big Ten. If that holds out to be true, I don't know what the floor might be. On the flip side, if he turns out to be good, right? Sometimes guys just get it, right? Guys will waltz in and they can read, they can see, they understand, they limit mistakes, they hit the big play when they hit it. They check down when they should hit it. If that works, then I think the ceiling's high. I don't foresee this, though, to be some new-looking offense that they're going to, chuck the ball 35 times a night. I think, especially early in the season, they're going to see what the quarterback's about. They did that with Brosmer last year, quite frankly, at the cost of potentially, they lost the opener against North Carolina. They missed the field goal late. Had that game been 2 weeks later, they probably win that game by a touchdown or more, because by that point they realized, okay, Brosmer, he can handle the bullets here. He knows what he's doing. And so I wonder just how they'll handle the young quarterback, how much trust they'll have in him when it's 3rd and 4 and you're on a drive late at Cal and it might mean the game. Are you going to trust him to, push the ball downfield? Or are you going to hand the ball off? Or are you going to, how are you going to handle that? And how they handle that and how he responds to that, to me, is going to be the big key to this entire offense. And if he handles it well, again, they can be pretty good.
Mike Grimm, the voice of Minnesota, as we preview the Gophers in 25 teams. On defense, it's going to be a hard ask to duplicate what they did last year. They were one of the best defenses, not only in the conference, but in the country. As this camp has begun, what's the biggest question mark on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think the cornerback position, the not quarterback, although on the offense, that, as I just said, is the biggest thing. On defense, it's the cornerbacks. Both spots are open. The 2 starters last year were very good. You heard the call there from BTN earlier. Ethan Robinson, that was one of the starters. He had the 2-point conversion return against Penn State that you heard that highlight from. He came in from Bucknell, and from day one, he was tall, a good tackler, long arms, good speed, was in the right spot most of the time. It didn't get burned much and was good. And then Justin Waldy's been a 4-year starter at Minnesota, and I think that's probably the biggest subtle loss for Minnesota. And I think when you look at around the league, people probably overlooked that his absence. He was huge last year. He didn't get beat almost ever. He was key in that late in the game against USC on that last drive. Now, it was Coy Parrish, the first-team all-conference player, who got the game-sealing interception, but in that drive, it was Justin Wally who had a couple of huge pass breakups earlier in that drive, and he got drafted in the 3rd round, and for some reason, he was just underappreciated all the way through his career. He got drafted by the Colts in the 3rd round, and I'm not tracking Colts training camp very closely, but I did see sometime in the last couple of days he's working with the ones at cornerback as a rookie, and I don't even know who their normal people are, but one of the guys that's been around is now starting to share time with this kid, and so I think they'll miss him. So the question is, who do they got to replace him? Zaquan Bryant started 3 games last year. Wally missed 2 with injury, and he's adequate, and he's young, and I think he's fine. And then they've got a couple of transfers. The last 2 years, they have used transfers for that starting spot. 2 years ago, it was a kid out of Elon, Trey Jones. Last year, as I mentioned, it was a kid out of Bucknell. This year, they've got a kid by the last name of Bauman. He is out of North Carolina Central, another FCS. And so they've had success going to that well. And to me, he's got to be pretty good as well. But those are to me, that's the biggest question mark defensively, is the outside. They've got a glutton of talent at safety. That's going to be one of the strongest positions, frankly, of any team in the Big Ten in terms of depth and what they have to offer at the safety position.
Yeah, and Mike, going back there, you mentioned Coy Parrish a few moments ago, a tremendous freshman campaign. What type of improvement are we looking at, just given you don't really expect freshmen to do what he was able to do, especially at that position?
Well, his improvement's going to come, I think, in the value that he offers the team. And now the day and age of player efficiency and athletes and guys playing both ways now, the Heisman Trophy winner last year, of course. Now, I'm not saying he's Travis Hunter-like, but he is going to play offense. And it's not going to be like, hey, let's put him in on 3rd and 2 and run him in the Wildcat. He's going to play receiver. He's probably going to play some running back. He might play some Wildcat. And I don't think it's going to be for 3 plays. I think he'll get his fill offensively. He's still such a good athlete. He can be a return guy. He was last year, and he was a factor. He never did hit the end zone. He had a couple of long returns in a couple of different games, including one at Michigan that nearly went for a touchdown. And then 5 interceptions, amongst the best in the country, the best in the country for freshmen, 1st team All Big Ten as a true freshman. he reminds me not just physically, and they wear the same number. And this is high praise, so I don't want people to think that it's preposterous, but he reminds me a lot of Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Now Cooper, of course, was a cornerback and Quay's a safety, but the way they run, their niftiness, their lateral movement, their elusiveness in the return game, I would argue that they probably, especially with some of the struggles they had on offense, they probably should have done a little bit what Minnesota's trying to do this year and run that kid some on offense, because he was a pretty good offensive player, talking about DeJean. But their games are so similar in just their athleticism. Now, is Coy Parrish going to be a first-round draft pick and return a touchdown in the Super Bowl down the road? Hopefully, that'd be great. But I think that's a fair comp. I really do. I don't think it's that preposterous. And so he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink defensively. And here's a crazy stat, guys. He started just 3 games last year. In this age of sub packages and different things and situational football early in the year, because he was not an early enrollee, so he didn't get here till last June. So he's only been on campus 13 months. When you count this the first week of August. And so he only started 3 games. So he'll be assuming health, he'll be starting every game this year. And I think the impact will be felt really in all 3 phases.
I compliment your restraint. Anytime a Minnesota guy compares anyone to Cooper DeJean, I thought maybe there might be some quip about an invalid fair catch signal. But you didn't go there.
Yes.
But you didn't go there. I did. Mike Grimm, voice of the Gophers. We wrap up every segment in our previews with a little quick answer question, some rapid fire. Are you ready to go?
Yes, ready to go.
All right, hit it, Nick.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
You do not throw rocks at a man who's got a machine gun.
Rapid fire.
Most important player this season.
For the Gophers, Drake Lindsey.
Player that you're most interested to see how they contribute.
Coy Parrish, to see all the different tools and gadgets they can pull out with him.
What's the minimum that this team could do this year to meet expectation?
7 wins.
The thing you love most about this year's Gophers?
I like their enthusiasm, and that's a constant usually with Fleck, but I think it's especially high this year. And I do think at places like Minnesota, you got to have that. You got to have that boyish fun, and it can carry you to play maybe higher than what your skill set can be.
The thing that worries you most about this year's team?
The outside on defense, the cornerback position, and to me the biggest concern, as I mentioned earlier, is if the redshirt freshman quarterback plays like a redshirt freshman. That could be a problem.
If you had $10,000 riding on it, what's your regular season record prediction?
7.5 and 5.5.
Percentage chance you give Minnesota of beating Nebraska in that Friday night game?
I will say, because it's in Minneapolis, I will say 57.7%.
I love the specificity.
I do too.
Just higher than a coin toss, but I mean that's obviously anybody's game. And I reserve the right to change that pick by October or whatever it will be, 10th or whatever.
Who's your pick to win the Big Ten?
I will go Ohio State as a defending champ. Now they didn't win the Big Ten, ironically, last year, but I'll say the Buckeyes just because they've got the best players.
And finally, 3 teams that you would wager to win the national title this year.
Ooh, man. Now you're testing my true limits because we're only in August here. I will say Ohio State, Penn State. Are we talking only Big Ten teams?
No, could be anywhere. Could be anyone. Could be anyone.
Who else is good? I'll say Clemson because they've got an easy track. There you go.
This might be one of the first Clemsons.
I think they've come up once or twice otherwise.
Not as many.
You are our 11th guest, Mike, for this segment. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of Ohio State, and it's been a lot of Georgia.
And Penn State have been
and then
a lot.
Texas has been coming up the road, too.
Texas has a nice payroll, that's for sure.
Indeed, they do.
Mike Grimm, the voice of the Gophers. Mike, we appreciate the preview. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
All right. Always enjoy coming on, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike Grimm joining us on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone Hotline. Well, here they are, Minnesota. They are Nebraska's Week 8 opponent. Of course, that's going to be that Friday night in mid to late October. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the schedule prior to that, Minnesota's got an opportunity to get into that game at 5-1. Obviously, Ohio State, that's going to be tough. Cal on the road, could be an interesting test. Rutgers, we don't know how good Rutgers is necessarily going to be this year, but that's coming off of an idle week. But I would say there is a 70% chance that Minnesota is going to be a 5-1 football team. Nebraska could also be a 5-1 football team at that point. That Friday night game could be a pretty important game, not only for those two teams, but across the country as well, if those records are true when we get there.
If these teams do what they are supposed to do, and I would say, knowing Minnesota football like I do and knowing Nebraska football like I do, it's been more likely in recent years that Minnesota does what they are more apt to do. Mm-hmm. But if they do what they're supposed to do, John, I mean, that game is very much for like the Big Ten middle class. At that, maybe not at that point, they're probably going to be in the upper part of the Big Ten rankings. But that would be a game that really would help solidify the victor in being in that upper half of the league, and as still with a half season to go as a dark horse playoff team. He said it at the beginning of the conversation. They have Ohio State, they have Oregon. Both those games on the road. Iowa on the road as well. Always a tough matchup. But it's fairly manageable. I mean, kind of like how we look at Nebraska's schedule this year and say, you got Michigan, you got Penn State. Otherwise, it can be fairly manageable. And so the question is, how will they manage it? The other road game that they have in conference is Northwestern, and that will be one of the Wrigley Field games because it's so late in the season. So, I mean, look at the teams that they get at home: Rutgers, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and of course Nebraska. It is very much a lot of winnable games in that regard, and only 3 or 4 games that have a sub 50% chance of them leaving victorious. I'm interested to see what Darius Taylor does this year. I really liked watching him play last year.
Oh, by the way, they also have Malachi Coleman.
Yes, they do.
Who received some compliments from PJ Fleck 2 weeks ago at Big Ten Media Days, and so there's a good chance we'll see him as well. We didn't really get a chance to talk to Mike about receivers. They brought in a lot of transfers, with Coleman being one of them.
Yes, they did.
But Coleman could factor in this year for Minnesota, which makes that Week 8 game even more interesting. K Ford says 6.9.
Nice.
And wins, 5.1 losses, a 64% chance of 7 wins this year for Minnesota.
Definitely should be a team that is 4-0 entering the Ohio State matchup, and then you see what happens after that. But yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like a team that should be 5-1 going into the game against Nebraska on that Friday night.
PJ Fleck is one of only 7 active coaches who have 60% win percentage and have been at the same gig for the last 9 years. Kirby Smart, I mean, this is a good company. Kirby Smart, James Franklin, Kehlani Sataki, Dabo Sweeney, Kyle Whittingham, Mike Gundy, and Kirk Ferentz.
Interesting.
Those are the other coaches, so Fleck's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a heck of a job there. This one will be a little bit tougher, but yeah, like you said, that middle pack, USC, Nebraska, UCLA, Illinois,
Indiana.
Minnesota, Indiana, someone's got to pop out of that group.
Yep.
Games like this are going to tell a lot about who pops out of that group, and maybe, depending on how things break, is that on that fringe of being in the playoff conversation.
And remember, since 2017, Mike Raz last year, 6-1 are the Gophers against Nebraska. Oddly enough, their only loss was Scott Frost's first win. But they have had close wins, the COVID win, for example. They have had blowout wins, like the one that they did during the 2019 hoodie game. The 2017, that was the oh-no game from Bill Moose. Like they, and then, of course, Matt Rule's first game, which was among the more horrifying losses in recent memory. So
there's been something significant about every Minnesota game, it seems like.
Yeah.
Or at least some kind of a, for lack of a better term, storyline that comes out of it. Hoodie gate, oh no.
Scott Frost's first win, COVID.
The COVID disaster.
Seriously, yeah, you're right. Like 2017 is the oh-no game. 2018 is Frost's first win. 2019 is the hoodie game. 2020 is the COVID loss, which for a lot of people is one. I know you are someone who's like, that game is one of the most disappointing.
That's one of the most disappointing ever.
2021, maybe not as memorable. Jock Gant tripped at the goal line, when he could have scored a touchdown.
That's right. They ran shotgun at the 1 foot line.
They lost that game by a touchdown. 2022, it was a forgettable year, so that game is forgettable. And then obviously 2023, the loss for Matt Rule. It's a team, like we talk about Iowa, we talk about Wisconsin as the ones who have owned Nebraska. But put your eyes on the Gophers because they very much have as well.